Fostering connection through vulnerability, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change. Together, let's embrace authenticity, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the People Pleaser podcast. It's Corie, your host. I need to admit, I'm coming to you today in a bit of a slump, a bit of an energetic down, and I'm trying not to be too judgmental about it or give it too much meaning. And I thought that this could be a good opportunity to explore it a little bit, be curious about it a little bit, and get clearer on like what this time in my life is. And yeah, I think I have a lot to share because there's a lot going on in my life. And to not beat around the bush, and I think this has been pretty widely known, I just got back from Montreal where I had my immigration interview. And when I say that this was 19 months of waiting, it was 19 months of waiting for this moment. And oh my God, there's nothing like feeling like you've been waiting for something for so long and then to be catapulted into this speed, this velocity of life that just feels like, oh my God, now we're going too fast. So I wanted to break down this overall experience for you. And I think it'll be really cathartic for me to just kind of validate like, yeah, girl, you've been through it. And to also recognize that I'm on the precipice of some pretty big change, and there's no freaking doubt that it can be a little bit overwhelming. And that's just something I'm learning about myself. I've been pretty consistent with my feelings of like I have this perception that I need stability, need routine. And these last few years have really flipped that upside down for me and given me lots of opportunities to challenge those narratives, but it's not without discomfort. And I think I'm learning how to manage that discomfort so much better. But I think that these past few days have told me like, girl, you're overwhelmed, and it's for good reason. So I want to take you back to July 2021. That is when I met my husband, Brian. Now, he obviously was not my husband. We met on Tinder, and what struck me about Brian right away is that he cut to the chase. Like, we honestly spent very little time messaging back and forth before he just called me. And this man, he loves to talk on the phone. And I quickly learned that he was in Washington State and I'm here on Vancouver Island in Canada. And the sneaky thing about Tinder is that it knows no borders, it knows no boundaries. When you put in your radius, I had in my mind that I wanted my radius to reach like mid-island, like Nanaimo. I would be willing to go that far. And honestly, I am born and raised in Victoria. Like, I swear, like my radius has just gotten bigger and bigger over the years because I just have been here too long at this point. We had an instant connection, and I was just it was so refreshing to just have someone that was so proactive in like wanting to get to know me. And lo and behold, we were in the middle of the pandemic. And at that point in time, both Canadian and US borders were closed. So that actually gave us some time to get to know each other, figure out if this is something we were going to entertain. And at that point, like, there's no way that we knew what we were doing. Like, absolutely no way. I don't think either one of us was like spinning ahead too quickly. And as soon as the Canadian border opened, Brian took a ferry over through Vancouver because that was the fastest way for him to get here at that point. And when I say the rest is history, the rest is history. We did have like our phone connection, our FaceTime connection translated into real life connection. And luckily, the US border opened within that year, and we began our journey of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, you know, it's a love story. Like, I do find so much beauty in the distance that we've traveled to see each other and the commitment that we have made to one another. And we got to the place where we were like, okay, how do we make this a little more permanent? How do we live in the same city? And being in two different countries, like, there's no chill way of doing it. So we did end up about a year in. So what's my timeline? We met July 2021. So, okay, we didn't like really go balls to the walls right away. By January 2023, so I don't know what that math is. That's like a year and 5 months in. We met with an immigration attorney to explore what our options were in terms of like, how do we make this thing real? How do we live together? And at that point, we didn't know what direction we were going, whether I was going there or he was coming here to Canada. Like, we really didn't know what the right answer was. We hummed and hawed, like, pros and cons in both directions. And it was through talking to the attorney that we got a little bit more crystallized in our like thinking, and she gave us the spread of options, and I'll spare you those details because it's not that interesting, but there are different ways you can go about getting a visa. And the route we chose was the spousal visa. So it's not necessarily a spousal visa. It's it can be for spouses, and it's a family member visa. So it's essentially a family member sponsoring another family member to immigrate. And the immigration attorney we were speaking with was a U.S. immigration attorney. And that kind of, I guess, was us choosing the path of me moving to America. And I've had a lot of people question me on this, and the people pleaser in me did really struggle with kind of coming up with the best answer. And the best answer is that is just what we chose. There were a myriad of reasons why we chose what we chose. One is that, like I said before, I was born and raised in Victoria. This is like, it's a pretty small city, and the reality of life in Victoria is that it's extremely expensive. There were a lot of logistical reasons that Victoria just doesn't make sense. I don't know that we would ever be able to own a home in Victoria. Like, it truly feels like that ship has sailed in terms of the economy and the housing market. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It hasn't for a while. And the other reason is that Brian is actually from Maryland, and I think it's been about between 6 and 8 years that he made the decision to move across the country to Washington State. And he has a really important community. And he's shared that it's okay for me to share this, but he is a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He's been sober for 12 years, and he has found just such a beautiful community within the AA community. I wanted to support him to stay there, and I certainly didn't want to be the reason for him to leave that community when it felt like it was still so precious to him. And just in terms of like our readiness to jump, I was a little bit more ready to jump. But there were a lot of reasons, and we stand by all of them. And the beauty of our circumstance is that there may be a day where we can come back to Canada. Like there's still so much to explore, and we essentially just needed to pick a first step. I realized I missed a very important piece of information, and I did get my dates a little bit mixed up. So we met with the immigration attorney much sooner than January, because it was from that conversation that we decided to get married. In order to apply for this family sponsor visa, we needed to be family members. And in order to be family members, we needed to get married. So we were married December 17th, 2022. And then it was after we got married that we put in our first application. So I just wanted to clear that up. So with all that said, the next, few details were pretty slow moving. The immigration process was pretty arduous. But at the same time, it felt like, wow, we are doing this thing. Like we are committing to each other. We are putting in the work, and I just can't believe. There are days that I just simply cannot believe that I found a man who was willing to like put in this work with me and put in this work for me. So it's been a really profound experience to just keep choosing each other, even though it's not necessarily the path of least resistance. So we put in our initial application for my visa January 2023. And I kid you not, we did not hear a word, a peep, like any type of real indication that anything was happening until December 2023. So literally an entire 12 months went by, and we were just like sitting and waiting and wishing and praying. And it's not that we didn't get any clue, but the reality is that we could check the status of our application, and there was like this countdown, but the countdown jumped all over the place to the point where, it's at one point said 6 months, and then it jumped up to 9 months, and then it came down to like 2 months, and then it got all the way down to 1 day, and it shot back up to, I think, 3 months or something like that. So we quickly learned we couldn't trust that. By December 2023, so that's the December we just had, it was New Year's Eve. I was actually in Washington, in Port Townsend, with Brian for New Year's, and we got the email that my application had finally been transferred to the National Visa Center. And I guess there are two stages where basically the issuing of the visa, everything, like the final details is transferred over to their National Visa Center. So after literally 12 months of waiting, and I don't want to downplay 12 months of not knowing anything and feeling like we've just been kind of forgotten about, or that we wanted to at different points we wanted to contact them and check in, and there was no one to check in with. There was no human on the other side of this. And for us to just continue to hope for the best, keep thinking positive, keep on committing to the long distance, just basically continuing to live life as normal as we can, and just continue with the back and forth. And I will say that one of the other reasons that we chose this approach, I could have actually moved to Washington right away and then applied for this visa, but we opted for me to be waiting it out in Canada and hold off on moving, because A, I wouldn't be able to work for the duration of the entire application process, and B, at the time of our application, my dad's health was really uncertain, and we didn't know, I couldn't neither one of us, like Brian was actually the one to advocate for this, was that like there was be nothing that could keep me away from my dad if I needed to be with my dad. And it just made the most sense given what was going on in my family that I wait this out in Canada and still have access to my dad. And, you know, like the reality is that my dad died just a few weeks before I got transferred to the National Visa Center. He died at the beginning of December of 2023. And it's just like the world works in such mysterious ways. And I may touch on this like a little bit more later, but the reality is that I was really struggling with the idea of moving to the States because it would mean that I was leaving my dad. And I was like, you know, one of, if not the main support to my dad. Like he was my person, I was his person. And to just like really think that he died like right before I moved away is just like, I don't want to call it a blessing. Like, I don't think I'm quite ready to call it a blessing, but the fact that I can like enter into this next chapter without that pull in two different directions is just something that is not lost on me. And yeah, that's, I think, just been rolling over me in different ways. So once we were transferred to the National Visa Center, like honestly, not much really changed. We were just in like another holding pattern, but it felt like reassuring in that we moved. They hadn't forgotten about us. Our application was still in motion, and that gave us this huge burst of like renewed hope. By June 12th, I got my interview date. So again, it was just like another email, and they said that my interview had been scheduled for July 16th. So they literally gave me a month to prepare, which after all this waiting, that felt very rushed, very fast. But what that meant is that there was a ton that I needed to do to prepare for this interview. Not so much like, oh my God, what am I going to say? But I needed like a ton of documentation. I needed a ton of paperwork. So I needed a criminal record check. I needed a certified copy of my birth certificate. I needed all the original paperwork from our applications and, you know, just like gathering all these pieces and hoping that I had everything I needed, because there's always just that for me, there's that feeling of like there's so much on the line. And this is when my perfectionism like really ramps up, my anxiety really ramps up. And because I had to go all the way to Montreal, and it does kind of seem like this was the one chance, like not that I know that for certain, but that's how it felt. It's like, this is your chance. Don't fuck it up. So the month of June was pretty dicey. Like, let me tell, like emotionally, like I was a hot mess, a lot of stress. And the reality too is that Brian like wasn't a part of this part. Like this was kind of all on me. Not that he wasn't there to support me, but he didn't really have to do anything. And I think that was hard for both of us. Like that was hard for him because he wanted to do more. And it was hard for me because I wanted him to be there for me. Like I wanted him to physically be there. And it was a really interesting shift where it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, Corie, like it was like passing the baton, like it's your run. And yeah, so June to July was just like I was in a haze. Like I didn't know what to expect. Like lots of fear was coming up. But throughout it all, I didn't actually have doubts. Like I wasn't doubting my eligibility, our application, like what we were doing. It just was more a doubt like around the systems that we were in, and that like it was really hard to get a read on like do these people have my back? Like, are they rooting for me, or like, am I up against some like serious, like, are they going to do whatever it takes to not let me in? Which I've never done this before. So lots of fear. So on July 15th, I flew to Montreal, and the next morning at 7:30 in the morning, I had my interview, and I'll spare you like the nitty gritty details. Like, it really isn't that interesting, but y'all, I aced it. Like, I had absolutely everything. I was the first one in, the first one out. It was so surreal. Like, after all this time waiting, like, it was just so surreal that, this started January 28th, 2023. And on July 16th, 2024, the man at the US consulate said, well, your visa's been approved. Like, literally as nonchalant as that. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. I was elated. I was emotional. Like, I had a good cry. My Uber driver dropped me off and he gave me this pep talk, and I was crying before I even got into the place. Like, it was a lot. And essentially what they explained to me is that they held my passport, so they'll have to mail it to me with my visa issued in it. And once I get that visa, once I get my passport in the mail, like, I'm in the clear to go. And so I am like ready. Like, I've given my notice at my job. I've given my notice at my apartment. I have booked my U-Haul. Things are moving, because after all this time, like, we're ready. Like, we're ready to get on with this next chapter. But what I've noticed since coming home from Montreal, like, I had Friday off and it's now Sunday. So I've had like the last 3 days off, and I've been in a haze. I've been in this like a pretty emotional space, if I'm being honest. Like, the tears are ready to fall pretty easily at any moment, which has also been mixed with like a feeling or like a sensation of just being overwhelmed to the point of like feeling frozen. Like, as if I'm in the like fight, flight, freeze. Like, I am in the freeze mode. And I think there's a few things going on. Like, one is the come down of this whole experience. I think emotionally it took quite a toll on me. And to just kind of finally have those emotions like fully wash over me, and just like realize that part is over. Like, that whole 18, 19 months of our lives and that holding pattern and that waiting and that uncertainty is like all over. And we now actually have answers and we have traction to move forward. But I've also found myself holding back from like getting too excited or like getting into that celebratory mindset, because I'm also realizing that this is like a very significant chapter coming to a close. Like, this may be a whole book series coming to an end, and I'm about to start a new one. I just can't even really begin to fathom like what that all means quite yet. It's not really, it hasn't sunk in, but life as I know it is about to change in a really drastic way. And it's, of course, a beautiful way. It's a positive thing, but it's not without feelings of grief and feelings of sadness and feelings of overwhelm and stress. And, like, I've lived a very independent life. I've been really blessed to get to just do whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want. And not that I feel that will go away. Like, that's just me. That's who I am at my core. But there is that surrendering too. Like, even though I've been married in this relationship for almost 3 years now, like, we've been together almost 3 years, I've always lived on my own, which is just so crazy to think that, I'm married, but also like living this, for lack of a better word, like single life. And same goes for my husband. Like, we kind of go to the beat of our own drum and get to do whatever it is that we want. And now we will have the experience of like coming together and being more collaborative and really needing to like consider each other in like a really big way every day, which again, I'm so excited for that. And it's like, shit's about to change. Shit's about to get real. I also, like I'm leaving a really great career and a job that I've had so many great jobs and opportunities, and to go into a new country where I don't know that landscape as well, and to feel like I'm kind of coming in as an outsider, that will be a humbling experience. And I know that I have a lot to offer. I know I have a lot to give and that I will find my footing. But to know that like, I don't know shit about the United States. Like the stuff I know about the United States, I have a feeling is not going to be the stuff that is going to be schooling me, like I need to learn all kinds of things that I innately do here that just come as second nature. And I am just feeling so grateful that I have my husband by my side. Port Townsend is a beautiful town, and I've spent the last 3 years like trying to get to know not just the town, but like the community and the people. And it has low-key been my dream for as long as I can remember to like be the new girl in town. And I get to have that experience. I get to start fresh. I get to start completely new, which is again exciting and almost like debilitatingly scary. Like I just feel a little bit raw, a little bit naked right now. And so, I'm trying to just move through this with ease and care for myself and not overcomplicate too much. Like I don't need to get ahead of myself. And that's actually a really new experience for me, is to just like move a bit slower, a little bit more intentionally, not let my anxiety kind of take over. And what that's looked like for me in the past is like just getting really busy with doing all the busy work and not really just sitting in the experience and checking in with the emotions, letting them roll over me, having these opportunities to reflect, having these moments to really identify like what are the fears and like what's rational and what's just kind of more heat of the moment, like haven't really had a chance to properly process that feeling. So I have 3 more weeks in Victoria, which is just incredible. I just can't even believe that. And, I'm going to move mid-August, right before my birthday. And I'll have a little bit of time before I start my master's program, and we will just be rolling. Like, I know that things are going to just lock in. I love our home. I love the idea of building a home together. I will have River, our dog. I can officially call our dog, even though he's really Brian's dog, but he's my baby. And I just really want to honor this time. I want to see friends. I want to see family. I want to leave this place with integrity. I don't need to rush. I don't need to get all concerned about how fast I'm moving anymore. I can actually just slow down and smell the roses. So that's sort of the recap of my immigration journey and how it started, where it's ended up. And this could not have been, this is best case scenario, honestly, to feel like we are now in control and can move intentionally and with care and with love. So I hope that you enjoyed this little recap. It felt really important for me to share because it's my life. I don't exist in a vacuum. I do not, I'm not just a voice in a microphone. Like there's a lot of life being lived over here. And that's my whole hope for this podcast, is to just really get real with each other and bring these vulnerable conversations into safe spaces so that we can all just learn and grow from one another. Once again, this is Corie with the People Pleaser Podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And if you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find daily content from me on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.